we'd like to welcome you to this week's episode of Fearless Flight Live. We got a really, really good show again. Of course, what do you expect me to say? We got a crummy show. Turn it off. Don't listen. No, we got a really fun guest, and then the other features that we do there. This show is, as you know, it's for anybody who is afraid to fly or has a fear of flying. It's also for people who know one, because often if it's not you that's afraid, you know somebody. And it really is a pervasive problem. And our goal is to help you change the way you think about flying, because that's really the essence of what you want to do. And tonight's show, we're going to do a poll question again, related to something in the news. And then again, back by popular demand, we're doing another book launch. Only this time it's the actual book itself when it comes out on September 1st. And both those of you who purchased a pre-sale copy will be notified on September 1st of the launch by Amazon. They will just simply send you your Kindle version. And then you can also order the paperback version on that day, or it'll be available for distribution. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that briefly. And the sweepstakes is the big part of that we want to share with you tonight. We are going to, I'm right in the middle of our our sweepstakes winner, the grand prize winner, Terry Foster, who lives in San Diego. She conveniently won the prize, so it's a little bit shorter flight for me. But we are going to fly on August 21st. And so I'm hoping that she'll be comfortable sharing her experiences when we get all done with this. We've had a couple of coaching sessions, and we're well into that. And then tonight we have a really cool guest here, Paul Heyman. And Paul just did some coaching with me, and he had a vacation flight with his family, and he's going to talk to us about his experiences. We've got the ever-present Aviation News Roundup, just a couple of highlights in the news there. And then for all of you waiting, particularly in the Los Angeles area, we just opened up registration this past week for our Clear for Takeoff 201 class, the next one in LA on October 26th. And the registration is open now. We encourage you to go over there. And if you're going to be in the LA area or you've been waiting for the class, please go over there and sign up, because right now we got the super early bird special on the fare, on the thing. And even more importantly, we want to get you into the get those tickets on Southwest while they're cheap. They're still in the middle of a fare sale. And I believe they're $49 going up and $79 coming back still. So you want to get over there and do that. So, all right. So let's get into it. Our poll question. Okay. It's a big one. We've talked about it. It's not as much in the news, which is probably helping your confidence. But when it comes back into service, which may be just in time for holiday travel, it's going to be close. Will you feel safer as a result of the process that's happening right now, or less safe going on the 737 MAX? If less safe is your answer, what is it that causes you to feel less safe about it? And what questions do you perceive you would want answers to? So the main thing is, will you feel more safe or less safe when it comes back into service? Or, are you going to be okay riding it? And if you feel less safe about it, which is really what fear flying is all about, right? I mean, we like to think that it's about the airplane, it's about the pilots, it's about the airspace, the weather, and all those kinds of things. But the truth of the matter is, fear of flying is an autonomic nervous system function where you just don't feel safe, no less than if you're, headed for an accident on the freeway. All of a sudden everything goes into motion, the fight or flight response gets triggered, and you don't feel safe. And so that's what we want to address. And we'd like some of your insight as to, or some of your ideas on what is it about that caused you to not feel good about that. Okay. So with that, I'm going to invite, I forgot we had a quick view of the book launch here. Again, it's coming up on is it September 7th, Peter? Is that that's the day we're gonna. Sorry about that, folks. I said September 1st, and but it is September 7th, and we're having one of our classes in the Phoenix area at the Phoenix airport that night. So again, we're having a sweepstakes, same prizes there in an effort to get the word out and get as much notification as we can there. So the grand prize is going to be an elite custom coaching day with me, all flights included. That turns out to be around a $7,500 value. And what that is basically is I will coach with you in the days before that, leading up to me flying to an airport near you. And I will purchase the tickets, and we will both get on an airplane. We'll go out somewhere and come back, usually around an hour or so from the airport, depending on what airport that we are able to pick. And you get everything. So it's a 1 to 2 hour flight, and I'll pay all my expenses, your expenses, and we'll have a good time. I guarantee you. We'll do one-to-one coaching as a preliminary part. Up to that, you'll get a personalized custom audio track of all the coaching that we do, and you're going to get our popular Fearless Flight kit, which our guest is going to talk a little bit about his experiences tonight. And speaking of our guests, now we're going to bring Paul on, and so he's going to magically appear there. Hey, Paul, this is Paul Heyman or Heyman? Heyman, right? Heyman, yeah, okay. And thanks again, Paul, for coming down here via video anyway. And we met, gosh, maybe 2-3 months ago, something like that.
Yeah, it was probably mid to end of June.
Okay, and you did a 15-minute coaching session. So you can talk about that and whatever is relevant here, because we're trying to help people out there who are struggling with this. And just like I learned 32 years ago, I can't believe the number of people who are really stymied by this whole flying thing. And you don't look like you have a fear in the world. You look like a steely-eyed killer there. So anyway, so what was it about, flying, or when did you first notice that it was not something that you were looking forward to do necessarily?
Yeah, I think it was probably within the last 10 to 12 years, I would say, when I had kids. And I guess it just kind of starts to become one of those things where you feel like you have more to lose. And I'm a control guy, so I like to have control. And the airline made me feel a little bit out of control because I was giving that control up to the pilots. And so started just having this fear inside of me. And it wasn't something, my family pretty much knew what was going on, but, I tried not to kind of let it show on the outside. Other, perspiration might have come through, but other than that.
Yeah. You got what, like 3 boys, is it?
2 boys.
Two boys. Okay. Yeah. And that's a typical thing. A lot of people too, they don't want to let their fear throw at you because you don't want to affect your kids in a negative way and all that. But it's interesting. And more people, more and more men, I might add, are timing the onset with when they had kids. And, at first it's about 2 to 1 women over men that I see as clients, but there is a parallel with having a family and all that. And I think clearly what you said there, it has to do with feeling greater responsibility to not to be here present, raising your kids and all that. So
right, but and also maintain the tough guy image, So
yeah, that and I really appreciate you saying that. And you mentioned that. Sure, what did you mention? Oh gosh, I swear I have one of those every week, at least one. But what was it? You said something that I really wanted to pick up on. Doesn't matter, it'll come back. But I know, the 10 years, the fact that you mentioned 10, 12 years ago, and that also is something that I've noticed throughout the 32 years that I've been doing this, is when I see people, it's not because it just happened the other day. Occasionally I'll get somebody that it was relatively recent, but most people, it's about an average of 10 years that they became aware of this. And so it bothers them to some degree over that whole period.
And I think it was one of those things where, you kind of like just accept it and say, you know what, this is part of the process. This is part of flying. I don't like it, but you know, it's part of the process. But for this particular trip, you know, as it was getting closer and as I started to feel anxiety about it, I said, I don't want to continue like this. I don't want to feel like this. I want to, you know, as my kids are getting older, you know, there's an opportunity to maybe do some traveling, and you know, and I don't want to feel like that every time I get on an airplane. So, so I was, you know, able to search you out online and connect with you. And you know, we started out with the 15-minute call, and I felt very comfortable with you from the onset. You know, very conversational, very much like a guy that I knew, even though we had just met.
Oh, cool. And what were you, if you could share for people, you mentioned control. Were there any specific triggers, you know, other than generally when you get on and get over it, or, you know, things Definitely. That I could identify? Yeah, go ahead.
There were definitely some triggers. You know, I mean, if I had to pinpoint one, it was definitely turbulence. Okay. And you know, we've did some coaching and talked about it, you know, and you have this image in your mind, and, you know, I think you paint a pretty good picture of the pilots, you know, being up in the controls, and they're trying to battle the turbulence. And I think that's kind of what we have, you know, in our mind that's happening. And, you know, that's why the information that we talked about and shared, you know, whether it was, you know, our conversations or the information in the flight kit, but information for me was a big deal, because it really helped enlighten me in terms of what turbulence is, what its impact is, you know, knowing that turbulence has never brought down a plane before. So I kind of, you know, that was one of the big takeaways that I had. And then, you know, just knowing that, you know, I kind of equated it also to, you know, something we talked about in the coaching session, which is whitewater rafting. And imagining the aircraft like a whitewater raft. So, you know, it was some of those little things, and you know, and then knowing that, you know, with the flight kit and the harmonizer, that I had that in my back pocket, and that I had something to go to, you know, if things became a little bit too much, and you know, I felt like I needed something that, you know, was gonna ease the nerves a little bit.
Okay. And so we recommend that people get that, listen to it, particularly if you get within 3 to 4 weeks of a flight. Listen to it at night before you go to bed, in the morning before you get out of bed, if you can. And then during the day, when if your mind gets hijacked off into the never land of fear of flying. And were you able to do that? Did it help? You know, and then how did you use it, or did you use it during the flight itself?
Well, definitely tried to do that. Didn't do it, you know, all the time, you know, probably should have done it more, but I will tell you definitely a difference between doing it at home. I mean, at home, I would almost fall asleep with it, you know, and then, you know, on the airline, you know, it was a little bit more urgency and, you know, a little different experience than on the home front. But the bottom line was I could draw on that experience and remember that, you know, I was relaxed at home, and it's a, you know, it's a relaxing thing, you know, to be able to have something like that. And yeah, no, I mean, I definitely used it both times, you know, definitely, you know, I mean, takeoff wasn't as big a deal as turbulence, but it was definitely something that I used on takeoff. And, and then, you know, I think, I'm trying to think. I think it was the flight out there that we probably had more turbulence than coming back. So I think I used it not only on takeoff, but one other time. But you know, had the TV on the flight, which was a helpful distraction. And on the way out, I happened to have a great tennis match to watch all the way out there, so that definitely helped as well.
Yeah. And I think just real quickly, if you could just take people up to, I don't know, maybe 2-3 days before or the night before, something like that, give them a feel, you know, what was it like leading up to that, you know, because I think that's a big part, because people on the one hand, they want to know, they want to feel the relief before they ever go to the airport, right? Because that's what you're really hoping for. And that doesn't always happen. And so if you can say, you know, what was it like leading up to it, all the way through getting on the airplane and stuff, and what was your anxiety like leading up to it? And 1 through 10, if you can. And then was there any point on the flight where you started to notice that you were feeling okay or better?
Well, I will say, that definitely some anxiety leading up to the flight. I know you recommended, kind of listening to the harmonizer on the way to the airport. Unfortunately, things got crazy. The morning just started going, and you're trying to go from the hotel to the airport and get checked in, and it'd been a couple of years since I traveled, so wasn't as prepared. Thought we had enough time, but barely making it in the nick of time. So I didn't have the benefit of a lot of what I'll call pre-game preparation in terms of the harmonizer, which I guess was a good and a bad thing in terms of just not thinking about the flight and being nervous and all that kind of stuff. Knowing that I had some tools that I didn't have before, I think was definitely helpful for me, because whenever I'm able to have some things that I know that in my back pocket that I didn't have before. Before it was just kind of like you had to grin and bear it. Maybe you had the TV to take your mind off things, but one of the things we talked about was the captain, and when turbulence happened, maybe the communication wasn't the best, and and that certainly happened this time. Didn't really have a lot of communication from the flight deck, but I had the tools that I was ready to deal with that kind of stuff, and I didn't need to necessarily hear from the captain because I had information and I had the harmonizer.
Cool. Yeah. And that just emphasizes to me, the big thing is you gotta do something different over the last time you did it, or you're gonna get the same results. And it's the old classic definition of insanity. It is expecting different results but not doing anything different. So kudos to you. So you had some anxiety getting up, leading on takeoff and stuff on the way out. But did it continue and just kind of gradually drop off, or was there a point at which you kind of felt, okay, this is going to be okay today?
You mean like on the flight itself?
Yeah, on the flight itself.
There were definitely points. I still definitely have some work to do with turbulence.
Sure.
But I can't emphasize enough, having the information and the things that we talked about to be able to draw on that kind of stuff. So important for me and so different because I think, again, one of the things that we talked about was understanding and the things that we don't know as passengers. And
right.
I think that there's a lot that I didn't know and didn't understand about the aircraft, how powerful the aircraft is, and some of the things about the flight test and things like that you just don't know. And if you realize that, even when you're having some of those anxious moments like I had on the flight, I kind of was able to draw on that and say, you know what, we've had a flight test that's, dealt with Mother Nature for 2.5 times, what Mother Nature can throw at you. So you're stronger than anything that's going on out there. And I'll share something else too. Like my son told me that when we were flying back from LA, that we had some pretty good thunderstorms. And I didn't even really know that, so.
Thanks for kids, right? It's funny. Yeah. And it's crazy, but the sensations that as a pilot, you're really, it's like, I don't know what kind of car you drive, but we all go through that little bit of fantasy about getting a powerful sports car or something like that. And, and it's acceleration we love, but when you have anxiety over that, it's a strange sensation. And so, if you got these things playing on your mind, big engines don't help you. But then when you learn that that's what it is, it's kind of like me. It's like, man, I love it when we release brakes, because I know that the bigger the engines, the faster we're going to get a safe flying speed plus that safe margin, and we're going to get accelerating, because that's the most vulnerable part of takeoff there. One question that I thought of there, I don't know what past experiences are like, but one of the things that I try to help people too is that the flight out, and you went from, did you fly out of Kennedy or where'd you go?
Kennedy. Yep.
Kennedy, okay.
Yep.
And nonstop to LAX, was it?
Yep, we did.
Okay. Yep. And then you spent a week on the ground or something like that. Okay. Yep. And my big thing is not just to get you on the airplane, get you to the destination, but not to have you, have to ruminate while you're supposed to be having fun. And so did you notice any difference in that about how much of it did it prey on your mind coming back?
Well, I can definitely tell you that, the anxiety that I felt before we started talking, before, I went out, was a lot more than when we started talking. And when I started listening to the harmonizer. I can't, not tell the truth in terms of when I was out in LA that, a couple of times it crept in, about the flight back, but it wasn't a big deal. I could kind of draw on the experience and say, hey, you've already done this once, now we only have, one more to go, and you have the tools that you didn't have before. So, and I, draw on past experiences too. There have been other times, where I've been away where I've had the thoughts of like, how do I not get on the airplane? Yeah. And I don't have those thoughts this time.
Yeah, cool. Because no matter what, I don't care, all kinds of therapies, aromatherapy, widgets or whatever. But the bottom line is you got to change the self-talk that's coming at you. And that is an inside job. I wish I could do it for you, but that's what the harmonizer is about. It's about to give you a little boost so that at least the first times you get into that, you don't have to be responsible for coming up with the dialogue initially, and then eventually you do supplant it and replace it with your own stuff there. So any words of wisdom for people out there? Because, I know somebody's out there saying, yeah, Ron's got another plant again. This guy is his long lost brother-in-law or whatever, and he's not really afraid to fly. He just plants them on there. But that's not the case, right? I mean, this was a deal.
I am here definitely voluntarily. We have no relation. No, I mean, I guess the biggest thing that I would say is that, I think it was a great combination to do the coaching and the harmonizer together, which is, what Ron had suggested from the outset. And, I really think that, having those tools and knowing that, you have those tools with you, and that you have something to lean on that you didn't have before, and understanding, reading, some of the materials, beforehand in terms of some of the stories that people share about their own experiences, when they were afraid and getting over those things and being able to visit these places, and just, understanding that this is the quickest way to get from point A to point B, and usually the less expensive way too. And just, I think that it's just kind of one of those things that we have to kind of, like you said, just change the narrative and be able to, change our minds, because that's the big thing. And that was the big thing for me is having the information and being able to kind of rewire myself to understand, like, what, this is not as big a deal. Because that's the I think the big takeaway too is that I hadn't flown in probably 4 years, and I had built it up to be way bigger a deal than it was.
Yeah. Well, kudos to you for doing what it took, for having the guts really to step forward and say, you know what, I don't want this to affect my life and my family and all that. And I appreciate that. You're an inspiration to me. I say that to people like you, and I'm not kidding, because nobody knows better than me. You don't have to get on a dadgum airplane to, you can live the rest of your life like this. It may be inconvenient, but you really do. And from somebody who's firsthand been a security cat in my life and several places in my life, and I'm really in awe about it. So thanks again for not only for the courage you had, but thanks for coming and sharing with everybody tonight. I really appreciate it, Paul.
No problem. I appreciate all of your help. It made it a good experience.
All right. Hey, have a great evening, and you know where to find me.
Definitely. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Paul.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Have a good night.
All right. So let me just quickly catch up here.
Okay.
Jim Duke says the answer, or his answer to the poll question, is when the 737 MAX is coming back into service, it'll probably be the safest plane around.
You and me, Jim, that's the one I want to be on the day that it flies, because no airplane in current modern times will have been scrutinized more than that one. And you got even bigger stakes. I mean, I can show you over time, going back to the DC-10, went through the same thing. The 787, Boeing 787 had battery problems and stuff, but nothing like this, nothing like the way this has been handled and all that is as significant as that. And I'm telling you, Boeing has got so much riding on this, they can't afford another mistake, and they're going to be over cautious. And like I said, the easiest thing in the world is to fix that problem that caused those crashes. The hardest thing is to get the trust back there. So anyway, thanks, Jim. I really appreciate that. What else, Dieter?
Michelle said that she may wait a little while, and I think, and to be honest with you, I think that's a very normal and a very human tendency, I think, and
Sure.
so. I think we'll see that effect of people, and we do have some numbers actually. So we wanna get to those in our aviation news roundup. So let me just bring this up, and there we go. So do you wanna just take it away and?
Yeah, I mean, and here's they're quoting the FAA Chief Stephen Dixon about this, and he says it's not going to fly in commercial service again until he's completely assured it's safe to do so. And I want to tell you, he's not going to make that decision on his own. That's going to be one of the biggest team decisions that you've ever seen in the FAA. And not only does the FAA not have a timeline, neither does the airlines. And you can see the actions that they've taken. They've taken them out of service, and I think the latest is most of them are not counting on it coming back until the new year. Now they could come back earlier, and I guarantee you, if the airline, if it's released and they do that, the airlines will be really pushing to get them in service for that holiday traffic. But right now they've built their business plans on not coming back around until, as Dieter's got in the slide here, sometime around 2020. The beginning of 2020. There's about 400 airplanes that were affected by this for safety reasons after the Singapore crash or Indonesian crash and the crash in Ethiopia. And what a lot of us don't realize is the fact that removing these aircraft from the world airline fleets has meant the loss of 41 million seats. I mean, those are real numbers, folks. We're talking billions of dollars in revenue. And Southwest has been in the news in particular because they flew more of them. I think they were in the 40s in terms of the number of airplanes that they had the MAXs in service. So it's been a big deal. And here you can see 4.1 billion in revenue that due to that grounding, and Southwest alone.
But look at that, almost 3 million seats at Southwest.
Just over 2 million for American. Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy to think about that.
Crazy, not only crazy, Dieter, but
expensive.
Just expensive and just planning. I mean, because
the logistics.
It's not just the seats that you lose out of there, because you got pilots. You hired people, mechanics, pilots, flight attendants to staff those airplanes. And when you take those out of service, you got people that I mean, in the worst case, they furlough people, they lay people off in that. But I haven't heard anything like that. They have kept the people employed. But I mean, oh my gosh, it's a huge economic domino effect within the airline, not to mention the other economic fallout from that in the suppliers and all that. So it's a big deal. And that's why, as Jim said, that airplane is going to be the most scrutinized airplane in history when it comes back into service. So,
and here's a slide actually that I think you'll have fun talking about that one. They're bringing back you like your. Did you fly on a 737-200 or 300?
The 200, yeah.
So some of them are digging out these old planes, obviously that have the proper certification and everything, but I think you spoke to that right in the beginning of when this whole thing started to break loose. You were mentioning how it's not so much about that MCAS system, which obviously seems to be like the pivotal issue, but it's really about the certification process. And because when I look at these numbers, the MAX, which essentially is the same 737 and is certified as that, is flying like twice the distance, more than twice the distance, so that aircraft can't be the same in my mind anyways.
No.
Than what you flew in a 737-200.
Yeah, and that is the issue, is the certification process. And when I was in aviation, I was fortunate enough to, on the one hand, to talk to people who were afraid to fly, but on the other hand, I was in the leading edge of the psychological end of flying, which the airlines moved to, because they realized back in the late 70s, early 80s, they realized that when we had accidents, even though it was the safest way to travel, the accidents more and more were happening with the airplane was functioning, but the crew, either as a result of making a decision that affected after a mechanical problem of some sort, or just to pilot a human error, that the problem was in the process. And so that's when we started to look into organizational issues, cultural issues, the making people ready to fly and able to communicate with one another better. And ironically, that same process that we use is what apparently broke down in the developmental phase of that. And so that's, like I said, that's the part that they really have to work on. The mechanics of getting the airplane back in the air, not so much. So
and I think so. I guess we could really say ultimately, what does that mean to you? What does that mean for us? And I want to kind of segue real good here to, well, if you happen to live in the Los Angeles area, on October 26th, we will have our second class in Air Hollywood this year, actually.
Yep.
Coming up. And let me pull up the slide, and then I'll let you talk about it a little bit more.
Okay. Well, this is a really special class due to the kindness and creativity of a fellow that owns the Air Hollywood studio in just north of Burbank in Pacoima, California. We started back in 2014 after I appeared on a Nightline special. And he said, "Hey, I got this studio, and we got some time on our hands where we don't use it on weekends and stuff. So would you be interested?" And we put our heads together, and we've been doing it ever since. And it gets better and better, and more popular and more well known. So we got a lot of knowledge in there. Jim Duke, Michelle, both on the call tonight, or at least on watching the show. They were both students and graduates there. They might put some comments in there on what it meant to them. It's a great opportunity. You can see that picture there underneath the link there. That's myself and Sue, one of our helpers, one of the staff, and Eric Larson, who, by the way, Eric's flying and he's actually catching a little shut-eye in preparation to come back from Maui tonight. We don't feel any sorrow for him because he's over in Maui. And somebody said, or he went down to the beach today. He said he just couldn't resist jumping in the water there. So anyway, that class is become really popular, and we want to get it out there and get the word out for anybody who might be interested, and bring your coach or your partner, your spouse, anybody with you that can support you to the class. This is the panel that we have. We have a morning session in the boarding area there, and then we move through that simulated security facility there, and then we actually go into a mock jetway and board the airplane, and or the mock above the airplane. And so people really subscribe to how realistic it is. I even had one lady several years ago who said, "Now you're not going to move this thing on us, are you?" And she was actually, it was so real. She lost kind of her perspective there and thought that, well, maybe they can make this thing fly, but no, we don't make it fly, but we do make it shake, rattle, and roll just a little bit. So it's a very realistic experience, and it's something that you can't do in a therapist office for the most part. Jose said, amazing man, amazing class. We should put amazing team there. And you learn to overcome so much more than just the fear of flying. I would recommend the class in a heartbeat. And thanks for that, Jose. He's one of the many people that went through the class and flew. We do have that as a benefit. No additional tuition. We have the Cleared for Takeoff 301 class right after that. If you sign up for the class, pay for the class, you get that as a bonus that day. And you do have to buy a ticket on Southwest Airlines, and that's why I say get over there early, get the ticket before they start raising the prices as we get closer to the date October 26th. But it's a great opportunity, and I mean it's a slam bam, thank you man opportunity to burst through, break through your fear flying and get on the airplane and fly. And I guarantee you are not going to be prepared for all the joy and all the fun that you have that day. And Michelle and Jim Duke, all of the people that have gone through it that have become faithful followers for us here, they can attest to that. It's an experience that many people walk in that day are convinced that even though they bought the tickets to fly with us, they're not going to be able to do it, and then they just do it. And it's the best. Dieter and the rest of the staff are all on board with us and go flying with us, me included. We all jump on the airplane with you. So you got a great team of support with you. And I just want to take this break, a quick break here. Let me see. I want to just acknowledge Dieter. I've been putting him through the ringer getting this book done, and we brag about him as being technically astute, certainly far above those capabilities that Eric and I have. But I want to say that I get choked up when I say this, because he is really, he does have some technological gifts and certainly a lot of tech savvy. But the best thing he is to me is he's become a great friend. He's an amazing therapist, father. I'm in awe at the way that he conducts his role as a father and a husband. And he's the best teammate that I could ever have imagined. And without him, I would never have been able to pursue the dream that I have had of reaching as many people as I can. To help people overcome their fear flying. I mean, I'm telling you, I had no idea 32 years ago I'd be doing this at 70, 72. I almost made myself 77, 72 years old. But seriously, Dieter, my heart goes out to you, and thanks for the support in doing that. So I wanted to get that out before we finish the show tonight.
I appreciate.
So anyway, we want you to come, bring all, and come to the class in October. We'll be talking about it from week to week, of course, but it's just a great time. And I know it's hard to believe right now that you could have fun overcoming what's pretty awesome phobia for a lot of people, but it's not a big deal. And you just heard Paul Heyman again, and thanks to Paul again for appearing tonight, because you just got to decide you're going to do it. And there's no substitute. I can't pass a magic wand and make the anxiety go away in the way that I'd like to, but you won't believe, looking back, it passes. And once it passes, you'll never be the same person again. And we want to come and we want to share that experience with more and more of you. So,
and I think the one thing that is so powerful in the classes is the collaboration, right? I mean, we
totally
say in the FearlessFlight method that social collaboration is one of our 3 pillars, our key, cornerstones in overcoming our fear of flying. And the reason for that is simply because there's a big amount of shame that we carry, and that usually prevents us to reach out, for help, that usually prevents us to, make connections that could actually end up, being really helpful for us. And I've been, gosh, to a lot of classes by now, and it never ever, and not that I don't know that I do, but it never ceases to really impact me how many people come to class and they look around, and you look at the picture here. I mean, we had over 50 people at the last LA class. And so many of you say, oh my God, I thought I was the only one. I thought, everybody else was okay. And to me, that's really what moves the needle. I mean, why we do this is because it's life-changing. I mean, our good friend Oscar, I unfortunately don't have that picture, but Oscar Mixco, he was at the March class, and he just messaged me, and he's gonna retake the class as an alumni, because he is going to India, and he would have never imagined watching his child get married, his daughter get married in India. So I mean, this would have never been possible for him. And I mean, what it means to his daughter and to him and the family, I mean, how can you put a price on that,
Yeah. And we've been constantly trying to simplify it, and that's what the book is about. We want to give you some simple ways to get started, because it is a process. It's going to get better and better and better, but it's all based on just feeling unsafe. You're designed to feel unsafe when your certain parts of your brain detect a danger. And the problem is it doesn't discern between real and imagined threats. And so that's going to happen. But just to give you an element of hope, you don't break down, you don't have trouble getting your confidence and feeling safe again after a car accident, although you can have post-traumatic stress after a car accident, and it makes you on guard and all that. But you do things every day. You engage in conversations. You go in to see your boss about a raise or something, a mistake you made, and you have those same feelings, but they don't last forever. But with people who have been touched by this whole thing with anxiety due to flying, it's different. For some reason, you just get stuck in that. And it's not that we've broken the code. You've broken the code already. We just help reveal inside you where you have it hidden. All right. And that's what it's about. And we just, you blow the tops off, you blow the lid off of that hiding place where your courage is, and it's a different life. So anyway, I'm just, we had 50 people, as Dieter mentioned last time. We're increasing. I talked to Talat, the owner of Air Hollywood, and I said, Talat, can we get some more seats in there? And we said, sure, because one of the things that wasn't realistic is we had too much legroom in between the seats. So we're going to try to make it the realism, and we're going to get more people. Actually, they can add on to the mock-up that they had over there. But we're actually increasing the capacity based on the demand that we had last time, because we had to turn some people away. So we don't want to turn anybody away this time. We want all of you to come, and we're looking forward to it. So, okay. Any burning questions that have come in, Dieter?
No, people were replying to some of the comments that we've made about MAX, and apparently Michelle was wondering if Airbus had a pitch problem too. So we don't know too much about that.
Yeah, I haven't heard about it. Send me the URL.
Yeah, exactly. Michelle. If you can send us the link, whatever you found, Michelle, that'd be great. So thank you, and thank you for tuning in.
And I forgot to mention the group. We got a Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather. Please like our page if you haven't already. Join the both our Facebook and our Birds of a Feather group. It's becoming more and more people, more active, and you're generating a lot of support out there. And Jim and Michelle, two of the biggest participants in there. So
we're getting great success stories in that group too.
Which really opening up. So thanks for for sharing with everybody, and Dieter, again, thanks to you, my dear friend, and and teammate. So thanks. We'll see you next week here again for Fearless Flight Live, Tuesday night, 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern. And have a great week.
All right. Good night, everybody.